Welcome to part 31 of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. It turns out we've held things back for one more day. And it's a good thing too, so now we can finally get to the bottom of a few things. Like for one, that boat caretaker that ran off of court yesterday. And the other thing is Edgeworth claiming that he may have committed a murder and he's completely forgotten about it. So now we're gonna have to find out exactly what the hell's going on. I'll give you a hint. It starts with a D and ends with a 6 with an L in between. Just saying. But we are closer and closer to trying to find out, or should I say, finding out what's really going on. At least we know one thing. The boat caretaker really did kill Hammond. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't have ran off the way he did in the last part. So, with that said, we need to get Edgeworth's side of the story, something that the entirety of the law system didn't do throughout the entirety of this case. And before we can do that, here's Larry. Larry will finally reveal exactly why Phoenix decided to become a defense attorney. But one thing is for sure, if it wasn't for Larry, Edgeworth would be in jail or worse. And just think, at the beginning of this game, he was the one that almost was framed for murder. A murder with an obviously guilty witness, and more importantly, a guy who obviously did the crime. So on that note, we have to talk to Larry in order to progress the entirety of the story, so might as well. And the fact that Larry pretty much did what he did last part, again, definitely saved our asses. And of course, Larry points out the obvious, that the boat caretaker is suspicious. On that note, he, honest to God, should have came out with what's going on, before Edgeworth was about to be given a guilty verdict. So, here's the thing. Both Larry and Edgeworth went to school with Phoenix, so now we get to find out that story. And he never did tell Mia that story. He's about to tell Maya. She's the only one who unfortunately knows. So, it turns out Phoenix was actually accused of something he didn't do. Par for the course for the entirety of the Phoenix Wright franchise. Save for one case, Turnabout Farewells. Or, I think it's Farewell My Turnabout, that's what the name is. But that's the only exception. Other than that... Oh wait, no, almost forgot. Turnabout Serenade. God damn that case. Anyway, other than that, just about every case in this entire game, somebody's framed for a murder they didn't commit, or framed for a crime they didn't commit. In this case, we're going to have to talk about the class trial, which, by the way, it turns out that someone had their lunch money stolen, and everybody blamed Phoenix because he wasn't in gym class at that time when it happened. As a result, he almost got ostracized from the school. Or possibly worse. And the money that was stolen was $38. That's a lot of money. Somebody had to be absolutely rich to leave that there. But, Unfortunately, Phoenix had a cold and everybody blamed him because he was the only one not in class. Larry wasn't even in school at the time. Seriously? That really is a very mind-boggling thing as to how $38 come up missing and Larry's not there. At least Phoenix had somewhat of an alibi. He was coming down with a cold. But you know how they are. You don't have a cold, you're just pretending, and here we go. All the kids are pretty much ostracizing the guy. And also, Phoenix owes somebody 50 cents. Pretty sure he never gave it back to them, but I guess he eventually did, never know. But I'm pretty sure that this portion of this case was actually an animated episode on Phoenix Wright. The entirety of Phoenix's childhood was an entire part, which would have been set for Rise from the Ashes. But unfortunately, for everyone who liked Rise from the Ashes, that never got animated. This did. And also, I'm pretty sure Miles was helping out some old lady. Come to find out, the old lady was a thief. That's all I remember that episode. But this whole trial with Phoenix Wright being accused of stealing $38, that was actually in the anime. And Larry also shows up as well after Phoenix almost pretty much got the blame for this. But whatever the case, Edgeworth pretty much stood by Phoenix and proved them innocent. Because nobody had the evidence to know that, well, Phoenix stole the money. They just assumed he did it because he was there. And there was also another reason why Phoenix became a lawyer. The thing is, that won't be explained until Trials and Tribulations. So, the fact that Larry took the day off pretty much shifted the blame to pretty much anybody who happened to be not there and the money ended up missing. So with that said, we might as well talk about after the trial. This is kind of important. Because Edgeworth again blames himself for a murder that he somewhat committed. We don't know if he did or didn't, but one thing is for sure. Because of the DL6 incident, Edgeworth has been acting cold, he's been acting ruthless, he's scared of earthquakes, and I'm pretty sure he's also scared of elevators if anything from Ace Attorney Investigations 1 has anything to say about it. But whatever the case, Phoenix also became a lawyer because of the fact that he heard of several dirty dealings with Edgeworth, including manipulating testimonies and fabricating evidence. That's going to be kind of ironic because of the first case of Apollo Justice, which is what actually ends up being Phoenix's own undoing. But whatever the case, let's get back to that. He just wanted to see what happened and why did he become the way he has. That's why he became a lawyer. And sure enough, he became a defense attorney, and the first case he meets Edgeworth in was Red White. And ironically, it was the case where he had to avenge Mia, and more importantly, try to find the killer, which he not only bragged about, but almost pinned Phoenix for the murder. I shouldn't remind everybody about Turnabout Sisters. And oh yeah, in case you're wondering what happened, the recorder ended up going off in the middle of his dialogue. And it's safe to say that Phoenix still hasn't gotten any money from Larry. But tomorrow is going to be the last day, or should I say day 4 is going to be the last day. So we need to do everything we can for Edgeworth, and that's basically what we're going to do. So we had to come here first and talk to Larry. So now that we've gotten all that out the way, excuse me 1 second, I'll be right back. Sorry about that, I had to excuse myself, but as you can see here, almost all of the evidence used in the last episode is gone, except for a few things. I mean, we still have the DL6 case file at least. Well, for now anyway. But Phoenix discarded just about all of the evidence that we had, because now he probably no longer needs it. But now we're going over to Gourd Lake, and we meet Gumshoe, who is on the case of looking for the boat caretaker, who more than likely would be here and probably would have gotten everything that would have happened to trace him to the death of Robert Hammond out of his boat shack. More than likely, that would have been the case. In case anybody's wondering why I'm talking so low, well, it's because I haven't gotten adequate sleep, and I've been dealing with amnesia, so sorry about that. Whatever the case, we at least know that the boat caretaker is actually the killer. So we'll just have to talk to Gumshoe at least to get more information. And by the way, that pause that I have, it was me checking to see how much time I had left on the recording. And Gumshoe is trying to guarantee to catch the criminal. Well, like I said, he's actually gotten better. Oh, and for the record, Lotta made it almost impossible to go to the Gourdy Lake Woods from here on in. This is the last time we'll ever be investigating this place anyway, so there's no point in going to the woods. But, like I said, Lotta's an idiot. And it turns out the only person who has the right to be over Gourd Lake is Larry. However, we just got finished talking to him, so he hasn't been to work lately. So, the Steel Samurai is not there for right now, and Larry's still worried about Edgeworth, so we won't have to worry about that. Instead, we're going to go to the boat rental shop. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry, I'm starting to get the hiccups here. This time, the boat caretaker's not at home, but at least the door's locked. I mean, unlocked, actually. Surprisingly enough, guess who's also at the boat rental shop? Grossberg! Well, like I said, at least Grossberg's gotten better, Still doesn't change the fact that he's the reason why DL6 ended up becoming a complete and total blackmail job at the hands of Red White. But hey, at least Red White's in prison and Grossberg can redeem himself. He's lucky he didn't go to prison along with Red White. But whatever the case, Grossberg at least has faith in us that Edgeworth should be fine. But the problem is, there is still the matter of, well, Edgeworth's past of a certain murder. But more importantly, we still need to go into the boat rental office. However, keep in mind what he said about, well, what Grossberg said about having to bring anything you find over to Grossberg. Because, again, he has dealt with DL6, and more importantly, it was the reason why it was spread all over the news. So obviously, he needed a chance to make things right. Now that we're in the Caretaker's room, we can actually examine the Caretaker's safe, because he's not there. At least the bird actually speaks. Oh yeah, and almost forgot one other thing. You should have at least, before you started this day, took a reading of the DL6 case file, because by the end of this day you will no longer have it. However, if you memorize the DL6 case file, then day 4 will be no problem. But that's not the only reason why I said for you to read the case file. Examine the safe, and you will have to ask the, well, Mile will have to ask the bird about the keys to the safe. Or at least the combination. Because she already spilled the beans on that last part. And, well, actually 2 parts ago. And the combination is 1228. Remember that number, because it's going to come up in day 4. And it definitely will turn the tide in this case, at least. And if you read the DL6 dossier like I told you to back in part 30, you'll at least know what 1228 means. So let's see what exactly is in that safe. Well, Maya is actually breaking into somebody's safe, so obviously she's becoming a klepto. That's something you need to stop doing, Maya. So let's pop open that safe to see. And it's a note. That's the only thing that's the... Uh-oh. It's a letter, actually. And Maya thought it was actually money. But at least the note was handwritten, but there's no name or signature. And... oh, wait. I'm reading those red words correctly. It's saying, get revenge on Edgeworth. Yeah, that's right. That boat take care... oh, goddammit, I just stuttered there. That boat Caretaker actually has a note that specifically told him to get revenge on Miles Edgeworth. Meaning one thing. He also mentioned something, the note also mentioned something about, this is your last chance, now's the time to get your revenge on the men that ruined your life. And everything that Phoenix predicted, like how to kill Robert Hammond and to frame Edgeworth, and calling Edgeworth out, everything he predicted and bullshitted on is exactly what's in the letter. I don't know if Phoenix is clairvoyant or just extremely lucky. I would say the latter more than the former, but damn, he actually called it too. But it also means one thing. Edgeworth was set up from the get-go. So the actual picture we saw back at the start of this case was actually Edgeworth realizing, oh shit, his life was flashing before his eyes and somebody almost shot him. I think he probably might have recognized the gun too, but that ain't the point. Point of the matter is, Edgeworth was set up, and now we have the evidence against it. So let's get out of here and move over to Grossberg's office, and that means we have to go all the way back to the Gort Lake Forest because we can't go to the Gort Lake Woods thanks to Lotta. God, she's a goddamn idiot. Oh well. Let's head over to... Well, actually, let's first head over to Edgeworth, because we gotta show him this note at least. He needs to know what's going on, and more importantly, we need to know what is his, murder that he's talking about. Although he is being silent at least. Maya actually, brought up the class trial to try to break the ice. And it finally dawned on Edgeworth at least. And more importantly, Phoenix is the only one who truly remembered because it was actually important to him. And Edgeworth mocks him. But at least one thing, at least Edgeworth knows all too well that he is simple to a fault. But let's talk to Edgeworth to move things along at least. And there is a reason why Edgeworth wanted to become a prosecutor. Because he did look up to his dad. Unfortunately, his dad is the reason why he became a prosecutor. Because Robert Hammond got Yanni Yogi off on a murder case because there wasn't any evidence to prove it, and number one. Number two, the brain damage also would have been something else. Because that, according to the DL6 case files, Yanni Yogi suffered brain damage due to lack of oxygen. And the reason why I mentioned Yanni Yogi, because he just did, number one. Number two, like I said, if you read the case files, his name would be there. And seeing as how Edgeworth's father did not receive any justice, and that his killer ended up being let off on an innocent verdict, he decided to become a prosecutor to make sure that any and all murderers, or criminals of that matter, will go to jail at any cost, even if it means Edgeworth's reputation. Although Edgeworth had repressed the memory of the murder, all he knows is that he threw the gun, it fired, and the last thing he's remembered was him doing that, and once he woke up, his dad was dead. And also, Yanni Yogi had the insanity plea that was even worse. So that's why he became a prosecutor. And he hated defense attorneys with everything in his power. But the worst part is, why'd he hitch up with Von Karma? That's the thing that should have actually been brought up. But, seeing as how Von Karma picked him up once Edgeworth passed away, Gregory Edgeworth passed away, and taught Edgeworth everything he knows about prosecution, well, obviously Edgeworth would actually respect the man, but he had no idea that he would actually go up against him, or at least be one of the victims of his prosecution tactics. All he knew is that he was just being a prosecutor for his father's sake, or at least his, well, adopted father's sake. Which is kind of sad, to be honest. And the thing is, most of the suspects, if not some of them, were innocent. And some of them were sent to either prison or death row because Von Karma wanted to get a guilty verdict by any means necessary. Problem is, while there's no weaknesses in him thus far, he has shown a lot. Like, for instance, witnesses that stupidly dropped the bombshell that they were told to lie, or witnesses that Von Karma neglects. And then, there's what I'm about to present. We haven't known anything about it, but one thing is for sure. If it's evidence that Von Karma knows about, he'd probably try to get it disposed. And it was a note that you... it was a note that pretty much was given to him for... well, it was a note given to the caretaker to try to get rid of Edgeworth. And it just dawned on Edgeworth about that note. So on that note, he's pretty much put 2 and 2 together. It turns out that old man is Yanni Yogi. That's the only explanation as to why that man wants Edgeworth dead. And more importantly, why he tried to frame Edgeworth for murder in the first place. And the fact that the earthquake trapped him, Edgeworth, and Gregory Edgeworth in the elevator and caused the oxygen depravity, that would explain the whole senile act. Because Yanni Yogi's life was completely ruined. What else could he do? Aside from killing Robert Hammond and blaming it on Edgeworth. And in a way, since the whole ordeal with Edgeworth's death can actually be blamed on Yanni Yogi, because he lost control despite being a law enforcement officer or a bailiff of the court, and he honestly had no grasp of the situation. But in the fight, Yogi's gun fell out of his back pocket, because he was a bailiff after all. They do have guns just in case some suspect brings a gun into the trial. I mean, they're the only ones that have it. So, at the end of the day, thanks to the oxygen depravity, Yanni Yogi was found innocent. However, the public still viewed him as a murderer. So, his life was practically ruined and he had nowhere to go. I think it's bringing up old scars, and that's what that letter did. Question is, who written it? And more importantly, if Manfred von Karma knew about it. All signs point to yes. So, the only thing about this whole ordeal is Edgeworth still has nightmares and thinking that he may have murdered his father. Yeah, this is something that Edgeworth had to deal with during his time as a prosecutor. So, it's going to be up to us to find out exactly what happened and how did his father die. Because after all, the last day to actually find out about that, and more importantly to bring in Yanni Yogi, is day 4. And all he could hear in this dream was the fact that when Edgeworth threw the gun at Yogi, at least, because Yogi dropped the gun trying to fight off Gregory Edgeworth because his air was being depleted, instead of, staying calm and not... Oh god, excuse me 1 second, I'll be right back. I'm sorry about that. All of a sudden, somebody started blasting CSI Miami, and I hope it didn't catch into this part. But whatever the case, Yanni Yogi is freaking out about losing oxygen, and obviously, when you lose oxygen, that's what you do. You try to fight for survival. Okay, no. That's not what you do. I was being sarcastic. But... Again, Yanni Yogi's gun fell out of his holster, and Edgeworth threw the gun. And because of that, once he threw it, Edgeworth actually shot the gun, and then all of a sudden he heard a ghastly wail. And before he could actually make sense of it, as soon as he woke up, his father was dead with a bullet hole in his heart. That's the last thing he remembered. But he did have a he did keep hearing that ghastly wail over and over again every night. So, with that said, at least we know what's going on with the guy. Oh, and for the record, Edgeworth's whole ordeal was actually like 15 to 20 minutes short. His whole backstory, anyway, was 15 to 20 minutes short. Or should I say 15 to 20 seconds short in Phoenix Wright, the anime. I mean, they went through the whole entire Von Karma trial within... the whole entire DL6 trial with Edgeworth within 24 minutes, and the flashback of Edgeworth